joining us today to discuss the current market for automotive recycling, the kind of the global factors that are impacting everything right now. I've got two panelists. I've got Joseph Hearn. Joe is the president and CEO of Advanced Remarketing Services. They specialize in technology development, vehicle recycling, marketing, car donation, and search engine optimization. So Joe also has a few blogs that he posts on his website. So if you get a chance, I find them very useful and insightful. Go to www.arscars.com/storytelling. So they're under the storytelling tab, and they're very good. And so Joe is with us. I want to thank you for joining us, Joe.
Yeah.
And then we've got Mike Pierson. Mike Pierson is joining us from Arizona. Mike is the president and fourth generation recycler from Arizona Auto Parts. He's the president of the Arizona Automotive Recyclers Association. Their family, I love this, their family has been in business for over 100 years. They run a full service, 5 self-service operations, and 3 full scrap metal processing locations. So we're very glad to have you on. Did I get that right?
Yeah, close enough. Sounds good. Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right, thank you. So we have some, obviously current events are changing rapidly and causing a lot of disruption, not only among our industry, but among all industries. So let's just jump right in and talk about the obvious. So within the last week to 10 days, we've seen ISRI, URG, Aura, International Roundtable, all kinds of state and local conferences and shows and trainings being canceled. This is all due to the coronavirus, the need to stop the spread long enough so that they can try to develop a vaccine. So they're canceling all these large group gatherings. So tell me, you guys, how this has impacted your businesses, and what your thoughts are on how this is going to progress over the next few months. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah. So we started this conversation several weeks ago with our employees and clients and tried to see how
Joe, you're breaking up. He's froze up. Mike, you want to jump in and just give me your thoughts on what you think is how this is affecting the industry right now?
Yeah, for sure. So sorry about the technical difficulty there with Joe. Hopefully his connection will pick up. But for us, on the retail parts side, fortunately, up to this point in the month, March has been strong. Historically, first quarter in our industry is one of the strongest, and has bared out to be true in 2020. Obviously, this is a major hurdle thrown at all of us, and as Joe was, I think, trying to allude to, we've kind of seen the writing on the wall. We've kind of hoped for the best and tried to prepare for the worst, but it definitely appears like the worst is still to come. At least that's what I'm getting out of the news and the reports that I've seen. And so we, as a company, are doing all we can to, try to work through this. On the commodity side, that's where I see the biggest disruption currently, and that's where the most unforeseen disruption, I think, will take place for our industry at this point in time. And that's where I'm concerned, is on the metal pricing And being heavy in self-serve, we rely on the sale of a lot of scrap material. And I think we need to buckle up because we're going to see a big hit for the short term at minimum.
So Joe, welcome back. I know you had a little bit of technical difficulty. Hopefully things will smooth out for us. I'd love for you to weigh in on this. Unless he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen on my side as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier, steel started the year, you said it won $175, right? And it's currently at 130. So we've begun to see that downward slope. What do you think? I mean, obviously this is impacting all the industries. We were talking earlier about how it's impacted our kids' schools and things like that. Joe, you're back. I hope we can overcome some of those technical challenges. Love for you to chime in.
Yeah, so sorry about that, everybody. Best laid plans. It's actually one of the things that we've been trying to plan for is some unreliability in connectivity, which is a real obstacle for virtualization of some of our services, being a technology company, right? But where we are in Rhode Island, kind of sandwiched between, those New England states, right? Like schools are out, restaurants, gatherings have been limited to less than 50 people or 25 in some states. Restaurants have gone to delivery only. We're seeing this across the landscape, and this represents kind of a couple failover points in kind of our planning. We'd hoped we wouldn't go this far, but now that we're here, we're trying to best plan the next steps.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, you mentioned earlier that you think the biggest hit's going to come in the commodities market. Obviously, that's going to have a tremendous impact on our industry. How do you think? How do you adjust within your businesses to prepare for this?
Well, of course, immediately you need to try to adjust on your buy side on the cost of goods. And that's where, our focus is. I sent an email out company-wide to our buying team this morning in specific regard to that topic and where we need to come in. We've seen the stock market at highs. We've seen commodities at all-time highs, especially as it relates to catalytic converters. They've pretty much hit an all-time high, and we know what goes up must come down. Unfortunately, I don't think too many of us saw it coming down this quick. You take palladium, for example. Last week, it was trading 2,600 an ounce. And I think it was Thursday or Friday, it was down 1,800 an ounce. And today it's trading, I can even tell you currently 1,500. It was down 1,400 earlier today. Now, the hope is that, this may just be short term and that we'll see a rebound, because I believe the demand is still there for these precious metals and these commodities, but there's definitely a disruption, and thus we're seeing the steep decline in the pricing. So for me at this time and our direction, we're going to kind of take it day by day and really just watch the markets and not make any brash decisions, and hope that things bounce back a little bit. As we've seen, it's definitely been a roller coaster with all the commodity markets.
Mike's point's well made. You really have to operate in today's marketplace, right? But at the same time, you can't just you can't play this short-term game too long. I agree that there'll be some bounce back in precious metals for sure, but what went on 2 weeks ago between Russia and the Saudi Arabia kingdom on gas prices is kind of unrelated to coronavirus, and is actually pretty should be pretty significant for the transportation industries in the United States, not just in gas prices, obviously, but also in world commodity values. There are other market forces here that are negative that also have to be factored in on top of what we're currently facing. So you really have to be addressing it with your staff on a almost daily basis, and then kind of looking for signs for long-term decisioning.
Right. So in a worst case scenario, how would you plan? I mean, what would you do in the event that the government mandates shutdown of small businesses?
That's a tough question. I mean, we have over 200 employees, and so, I've seen out there where they talk about if you have 50 or less employees, there's things in place where the government will step in and help. And a lot of this is so new, honestly, I haven't personally had time to even, wrap my head around exactly what that would look like. It would definitely be a disruption and to our employees, to our customers, and a bump in our market. Now, fortunately, Arizona, right now, knock on wood, is one of the lesser states affected at this point. And because of, the extreme heat we experience here, typically compared to the rest of the country, that may be a little bit of a saving grace, but that's still yet to be seen. But yeah. I mean, if the government mandated that everybody stay home and lock down, then, what can you do except adhere and hope that it passes?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right observation, and I certainly, fingers crossed, those climate assumptions play through, because we're headed for warmer weather. But you really, I mean, as business owners and as industry and peers, we should be having conversations about what the net effect is on our businesses if we go through a period of sustained slowdown all the way up to the period of separation, what the effect is on some of our part-time employees as well, and hourly. Hopefully the government's going to fill that gap. The American government also, it would be a pretty radical step for us to go to like the Italian posture. I'm certainly not suggesting it won't happen, but I'm in Rhode Island here, where we have really heavy population density. We not only don't have the weather advantage, we also have people living in close quarters. In parts of Virginia where you are, the same, right? So it may be a very kind of pocketed and distributed reality that we face, but you have to have a hard look. You have to be speaking with your people, your employees. None of our businesses. I don't think any business runs perfectly virtual unless you're like Apple or Google, who made these kind of crazy announcements weeks ago, like IBM. For us, we live in a physical world, so it's not such an easy transition to make. So we virtualize the parts that we can, so we can have less people in the office, right? And start paying attention to that. But the conversations about actually acquiring the vehicles, picking up the vehicles, et cetera. I know that the auctions are rolling over to fully virtual, right?
Yeah.
Anaheim's doing that, right? Odessa's done it already. I had been moving a little bit more virtual already. So virtual buying could be potentially undisturbed, but there's so many other considerations.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's kind of ironic. I literally, and I don't think he's probably chimed into this Facebook Live meeting, but my sales manager at one of my self-serve locations literally just texted me and he said, "So I heard Trump wants to shut down all non-essential businesses. Did you hear about that?" So, there's a prime example of one of my key employees, and he's definitely concerned about what that could mean, not just for him, but for the company and the people that he manages and has responsibility for. So there's a lot of fear out there, and unfortunately that's what's driving so much of this. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are on this, but I guess my biggest personal thought is, you know, we need to try to take some of the fear factor out of this and, you know, kind of take a deep breath. And yeah, it's not a great scenario. It's a nasty virus, but you know, let's not make a run on the grocery stores, so to speak, and let's
Yeah.
you know, kind of just take a step back. And you know, I believe it's going to be okay. And I think a lot of this is really being fueled by fear and not reality.
I'm with Mike mostly. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm with Mike. I mean, the instinct to breathe is so important, and actually to be there for each other a little bit. Like, as business owners and leaders, to be talking to their employees. It is true that the fear isn't like evenly distributed. Some people are pretty confident that we're going to bounce back, right? And then other people who are in, you know, who are in high risk categories are feeling this a little more acutely than anyone. I think, you know, one of the few bright spots that we've seen so far is that our kids and the youngest of our kids don't seem to be as heavily affected, because that would have a quicksilver effect on the fear and anxiety from coast to coast. Yeah. So the rest of us, the best we can be is like, you know, as good neighbors to each other, respect each other's personal space and respect each other's anxiety. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had a few questions come in, and I've kind of folded them into our conversation, and I want to move on to another topic. But before we do, one quick question. It's from Scott Robertson, our current president of ARA. He says, our industry has always thrived in the past when the economy is suffering. Do you envision the same with this event? Personally, I do. I think it's, yeah.
Joe, I'll let you go.
Okay, well, it's been a source of pride to have actually survived like kind of these low economic periods in the past. It's been a while, right? Hopefully the muscle memory is still there, because that's for those of us who spent most of our careers here or actually grew up generationally in this business. That's the thing we always talked about, that there's always work for us no matter what the way the weather blows. So I believe that to be true. I genuinely do, but there are so many factors now that didn't influence the last time we went through a downturn. The complexities for some businesses are different than other businesses. So generally, yeah, I like the intelligence and the resilience of this group and the experience, but it's hard to anticipate. Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it reminds me of, and I mean, I still remember the day and exactly where I was, and it somewhat feels eerily similar, but I know it's not, and I hope it's not. And that was in 2008. I had just gotten off a plane for the ARA convention, and I got a call, and at that time we were selling steel scrap car bodies at all-time record highs. I mean, it was like $380 a ton. And I remember I got the call as I was walking to the Hertz Rent-A-Car Center to grab a rental car, just got off the airplane, that you know, they had to cease all pickup of our crushed car bodies, and that you know, the market was in free for all. And then, you know, we saw what happened in the 08 financial crisis. This is in my opinion much, you know, different scenario, and a better scenario in a lot of ways, as opposed to what happened in the last you know, major recession. And so
you've got different drivers.
For sure.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of this is driven by fear, which isn't fun, but you know, my optimistic outlook is, you know, things will settle down and hopefully return to normal quicker what happened in previous financial downturns.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, I want to move on. So the top 4 auto insurers released their 2019 financial data. We're talking State Farm, Berkshire Hathaway, Progressive, and Allstate. And here's what some of the data says. It says, and I don't think this is too unlike the past years. Claims frequency is down between 2 and 4%. Severity is up between 6 and 7%. And the total loss frequency is up. The average claim that they pay is just under $4,000. So we see a lot of accident avoidance systems. We see a lot of distracted driving. We see a lot of more complex and expensive parts going to the car. And then we see these data points, and it all funnels down to the auto recycler, right? So what does this mean to your business? And especially when you fold in, you've got an overseas market that is buying these cars as well. So explain to me, or just respond to those facts about how that's going to continue to impact your business and where you see it going.
So yeah, some of that data we covered in our most recent Reconomics post, which is that where we blog about the sustained and specific appetite for wrecked automobiles. And with the exception of claims frequency, which seems pretty flat because miles driven seems pretty flat, and even though there's a bunch of accident avoidance, the distracted driver keeps their contributions there as well. Those numbers are generally what we were seeing from last year as well. Yeah, the vehicle complexity continues to go up, which means the complexity of the work that our members continue to do continues to go up. Your organization fights a very important legislative battle as it relates to repair expenses and parts. So I mean, that combined forces, all that works very favorably for our industry overall, right? Miles driven is a hugely important indicator, but that's obviously bound to go down considering the current moment we're in. Also, that international presence is actually probably going to be significantly diminished for reasons related to the coronavirus and reasons related to world currencies. So those are things that we have to take and short now a little bit. But yeah, I'd stay bullish about the future, and just the number of vehicles on U.S. roadways is higher than ever. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, my I guess thought or mind in relation to the question really goes to the more complexities that are baked into every automobile now. And as a company, especially on the full serve side, we now are inventorying more parts per vehicle than we ever have in the past. And that's because we're finding tons of value in all of these avoidance systems and cameras, sensors, blind spot, avoidance, and all of these different electrical components and computers that, frankly, in the past, as a company, we haven't put a ton of value on. There's been focus, always on drivetrain components and body parts, but we're gearing up to be able to warehouse, inventory, ship, process more and more of this product. And you're going to have to sit, in my opinion, on a lot of this product in a warehouse environment, because it's going to take time for either those items to fail due to time or because of, accident. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think that's where the market in the late model industry is going to continue to evolve, is more and more demand for that product. I mean, there was a 2020 Kia Telluride that is the first model year for that vehicle that I just happened to get involved with the transaction, and a customer was actually just looking for a latch for the lid gate because new from the dealer it was over $500. And so, we're just seeing a lot of different components, where historically a whole complete lid gate, glass, fully loaded camera, everything might sell for $1,000 or so, and now you've got a potential latch that recycled we could sell, for probably $300+ dollars. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different factors that I see continuing to evolve and change in the industry. And we've seen that. I mean, that's one thing about our industry is it's really seems to be ever changing, and you really got to stay on the forefront.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of things that are impacting the industry right now, trade interference, global steel production, domestic manufacturing, and obviously the coronavirus. But as we kind of round out this chat, I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts are on silver lining. How long do you think, what are we looking at? What's going to come out of this? What do you think is the silver lining in all this?
So it's hard. You got to keep looking for it, right? You got to keep looking for it for your business. You got to keep looking for it for the sake of your relationship with your wife, speaking specifically, right? You got to keep looking for this narrative about the silver lining. I believe the conversation about flattening the curve is worth understanding, right? And that's why kind of initiating the conversations with your family about social distancing and trying to cooperate, no matter whether or not you think that the measures are an overreaction or not, like actually getting in the boat and starting to row is interesting. And honestly, if there's a silver lining that I project right now, for our industry, yes, I think the headwinds are headed in our direction, and we seem to thrive in this particular, in these moments in the past. For us collectively and socially, like, maybe us being in the boat, rowing together for a little while rather than kind of like so divided or like in perspectives might actually turn out to be a silver lining, maybe some level of if we get some level of kind of survivor's pride out of this thing, maybe people are kinder to each other in parking lots, which will send down total losses. I don't know, but that's the only, it's too early for any other, like mine's more kind of conceptual and ethereal than anything else, but I'm hoping that the best of human nature gets a chance to kind of come out and play.
Yeah, but Mike, I want to hear from you. Before you do, Teresa Colbert with carpart.com chimed in on Facebook, and she said this weekend at the GMAR show that her customers think the silver lining could be online sales, people being home and wanting to fix their cars. So that's a valid point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Teresa. I mean, I think we're going to see continued demand from the online marketplace. One, because of the current situation, but also, I mean, we're all, I think, experiencing that's how the consumer wants to shop, and that's going to continue to grow. Heaven, forbid that the government precludes us from going to work, and because it's pretty hard to dismantle cars and sell parts and ship them if you're working from home. But I imagine if that actually comes to fruition, it'll be short-lived. I tend to, to answer the question on the silver lining, be the eternal optimist. And though we're kind of in the midst of this battle right now, my thought is it's going to be a struggle here for the next few weeks or month. And then I believe we'll come out of this stronger than ever. Like Joe said, I would echo, our country is definitely, from a political standpoint, very divided. And, it'd be my hope that we can become more united after, we pass through this trial together as a country. And that would be my hope. But I believe there's a lot of potential for the financial markets, the precious metal markets, the steel markets to come roaring back. And, my hope is late spring through the rest of the year, 2020 will round out to be just fantastic. And I believe that's very possible.
Yeah, I see it. I see the potential, and I agree with you both. So look, we're rounding out our 30 minutes, and that's about where I wanted to keep this. We honestly didn't get to all the topics that I wanted to discuss, but that's good. But I really want to thank both of you for taking time. I want to thank, we had lots of people online viewing, and then this will remain on Facebook for people to view off our Facebook page. I'll also post a recording of this on our YouTube channel, so people who do not have Facebook will be able to see it. So again, want to thank you guys, to all you viewers who took time to watch. Thank you very much. Thanks for the questions that came in. And let us know in the comments what you think of this format, what you liked, what you think we can improve. This is something I would like to do. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll do another one. I've got several ideas, so I would love to know how you think we could do better and what you liked about this. So thank you guys very much. I hope you have a great day. Thanks again,
Vince, for putting this together. Yeah, I was happy to
Absolutely.
participate and appreciate the opportunity. Joe, good to be with you.
Likewise. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Good luck,
Wash
everybody.
your hands.
Have a great day.
All right, see you.
Yeah.
See you guys.